What do I do with my hands?
It's a podcast. It doesn't matter.
What do I do?
What do I do? What do I do?
Welcome to Project Syncro podcast number 3. Is this 3 now? Wow. 3. Sitting to my right, I have Matthew Conti, Mark Hebe, John Hebe, and Kyle. How you doing, guys?
Good.
I'm good.
How are you?
Kyle decided, Kendall's out of town, so we wanted to get some other people on to talk about stupid stuff. And you guys have been around enough. And Matt, you live right up the street anyway. And originally I thought we were going to do a little recap from 100 Acre Wood Rally, which right now has nothing to do with Project Syncro at all, other than I wasn't in the shop for any of that stuff. For those of you not familiar with U.S. Rally all that much, 100 Acre Wood Rally is our home event. And John, you were the rally master. Mark and I drove the Zero car, the course opening car. Matt drives a 91 Subaru Legacy, pedals it quite fast. And I used to co-drive for him. And Kyle, you had to work, didn't you?
Yes, unfortunately.
Kyle had to work, and he wasn't there.
I had an employee quit, so...
And someone quit.
Yeah.
Oh, how about that?
So I had to work.
Lucky day for Kyle. Well, Kyle, you missed some total crap weather.
That's why I wasn't too upset about not going. Because it was shit weather the whole time.
Wasn't that bad.
So,
Well, Matt enjoyed it. So, Matt, you usually, your preparation sides more on the, not really memorization, but sort of knowing the roads better than some people in your class. And I don't know. So the thing most people said about the conditions weren't that they were poor, but they were inconsistent.
Yeah.
So how much of that were you able to really note, or how much did you just adapt on the fly? I know it's kind of a mix.
Well, no, Recce, we did a lot of the notes, especially with Lauren's Escape, being front-wheel drive, open diff, all-season tires. You definitely knew when you weren't going to have grip. So we would note whether the entrance of the corner, the middle of the corner, the exit of the corner had icy, patchy stuff. But that kind of didn't really help much on day 2 when we had 5 inches of snow covering everything. So, yeah, it was tricky, but it's fun.
So did you really trust? I mean, once it started snowing. So Friday, just to paint a word picture for everyone, Friday was fairly similar to what the conditions you saw Thursday on Recce. Correct?
Yeah, it was basically exactly the same.
With what stage was that had pretty much all gravel on it?
Pigeon Roost. Yeah, like the last 2/3.
Yeah. So one portion of one stage on Friday was gravel.
But why don't you describe the conditions?
Yeah.
Basically, let's see, a lot of fast-flowing gravel that would then, you'd hit an intersection, you'd take a left at the intersection, and it'd be nothing but unpaved snow and ice. So you were going with the mindset of fast gravel on grippy snow tires, and then coming around the corner, and now you're just in pure ice and snow, as Zero car found out.
Yeah, well, we can deal with that later.
Yeah.
But the conditions of the road were, what had it snowed maybe a week or 2 weeks prior to the event?
Yeah,
it was like a couple
and
days.
then
it snowed at least. It snowed maybe because we're up in St. Louis, so that's an hour or two north of where most of the rally is, and it seemed like they got more snow down south. So one of those storms that came through did not hit St. Louis, and maybe they saw snow 3 separate occasions, and it seems like it would, they got into this situation where temperatures were hovering above and below freezing, and sometimes you'd have sun, sometimes you'd have clouds, so you get that weird thing happen where you thaw, and then you refreeze, and then you thaw again, and you refreeze again, and it just packed down each time, it seemed like. So.
And half the roads, they were actually plowed, and then half of them were never touched. So those roads that were never touched were driven on by locals, and that snow got packed down, turned to ice. So the main driving line that everybody took would just be sheer ice. But where the roads were plowed and there was sun, it'd be nothing but fast gravel. So it was very common just to have patches of fast gravel, then a long sheet of ice, and then snowbanks rolling right back into gravel within half a mile. Like, it was interesting. Constantly had to change the way you were attacking a corner and all that.
So you did really well. Where did you finish again?
We finished 4th overall out of 60 cars.
Yeah, and that's again, this is the big debate always, is the spread between regional entries, which is what we always enter as, and national entries, which everyone always seems to question the merit of national entries, but we don't really have to talk about that if you don't want to. But you always think, just as a casual onlooker in rally, it seems that you would think, oh, national guys, just by default, if they're national entries and they're factory-backed teams and whatnot, the national guys are going to be so far ahead of the regional guys because the regional guys are just there,
Racing for fun.
Yeah, exactly. But that was not the case at this event. What was the spread like between that? Because I know it was, the overall results, national and regional mixed. It was, you had regional guys interspersed in the national entries, which was awesome.
Yeah, I think in the top 10, basically out of top 10, maybe 5 or 6 were regional guys who, Justin Pritchard, me, Jake Marisak, a couple other guys were just in light, underpowered Subarus, and were able to do pretty well there, but it was mostly due to the conditions. Ice and snow is always the great equalizer, and that makes a big difference. If this was beautiful, fast gravel like we had last year, there's no doubt the top guys would have been 2-3 minutes ahead just because of how fast those roads are. You just can't keep up even if you're maintaining speed. But when you got that great equalizer, you can kind of see just how close everybody can be.
Yeah, because a SP car is maybe 300 horsepower and
3,200 pounds,
and your car is what?
160, 170 horsepower and 2,800 pounds, and that's basically typical for almost any good open light car. Even the NA cars, they're making about the same power and same weight, but it is pretty easy to get a regional open car to be the same power to weight ratio as a SP car, but I don't think a lot of guys are doing that just yet.
Now, I have not asked you this before. I just thought of this now. I don't know why, but when you were doing Rucky, did you actually know you're going to drive in the ditches and note that?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, and I was definitely keeping an eye out that anything that looked sketchy, because like you mentioned, local knowledge earlier, we know that those roads are wide, and where it was plowed, you just kind of took that road width down to half of it. So even though it looked like, oh, that's a deep ditch over there, in reality, the dangerous parts of that ditch are still another 3 feet off the road. So we were able to, come on that ice, dive into that snowbank, still knowing it's going to be smooth and clean, and then dive out of that, jump across the corner, and take that ditch on the outside. But if there were sections that did look sketchy, we did note there's no don't cut, don't go wide. Like, our notes are pretty detailed compared to what they normally would be for a smooth event.
That's John or Mark, you might be able to answer this better than Matt or I, so we haven't been around as long. It seems like past 2 or 3 years, 100 Acre was always a coin toss for conditions, and I know it turned from maybe I should or shouldn't bring snow tires. It was always a dedicated gravel event. I heard most people say this is always a gravel event. To, it seems like the past 2 or 3 years it's been questionable, and there's been some snow at least 2 of those years. Has that been the case in the past, or we just gotten not so lucky in the past couple of years?
Ever since 2002, when it came back, up to 2008 was the first year I think we had the ice. So those early years.
One was
the
it
weather
2002 or 2003? It was rainy.
2003, I think it was raining.
Yeah.
But
2006 or 7?
Yeah.
When we went down for our first time. We went down to a spectator
But otherwise,
point.
they were always, normal mid-50s, gravel. Yeah. Now, I can't speak about the 70s. We'd have to get Kim in here.
Yeah, really. I don't know. What else do you guys want to talk about 100 Acre? I mean, I don't think Kyle and I really had a big agenda for what we wanted to go over. Just kind of debrief what an actual event is like behind the scenes. I know we sort of have the benefit of having both sides of the table here, both competitor and volunteer.
I mean, like how things really go down. Like, you know, your tow vehicle didn't quite make it back.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, that's the kind of shit that, you know, it's kind of like Ojibwe as well, like that, you know, coming back. People don't see that side of it. Tires blowing up on the way, being stranded in the middle. Like,
I actually liked your, and I had thought about this before, but, you know, I've never really been in a position or had enough time to do it. Your crew guy, Gabe, took almost 0 photos of cars competing, but he took a lot of photos of, like, that photo of you grooving tires in the garage is awesome. All the, you know, just everybody in their element doing stuff. It was really nice to see somewhat behind the scenes photos. So, yeah. I know
that's like when we went to Ojibwe a couple of years ago, 3 years ago now.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
That's what I wanted to do. I took all of my equipment.
Yeah.
And I did not have time because I was either driving the truck all over the place or towing other cars that broke down back to, you know, the hotel and like, I mean, the only time I picked up my camera, I think, is when we were changing the tire in Iowa.
Yeah.
That's the only time I picked up the camera in 3 days because I just did not have time. But yeah, that's the stuff that I want to get. And that's, you know, obviously the next rally that happens that we're all
how
out.
shoestring some of the stuff is for
Well, even before the rally started, I mean, the trailer you were going to use was broken.
Yeah.
So what was it, like Tuesday or Wednesday? Maybe it was Monday or Tuesday. You call us up.
Yeah. I was told that it was broken due to an embarrassing accident. Never was told exactly what happened, but it's like, I know you usually borrow this, but embarrassing accident. Don't really want to talk about it, but can't use it. Gonna have to find your own. So, had to do the normal call out to everybody, see who could find one, and most of you guys were able to get me one and load up everything, get out there. And then for once, the ambulance actually did start and get us down there, no problem. And then it just decided it wanted to shit the bed 10 miles out of town, where I guess the differential blew up. It was just all of a sudden, we were just driving along, going down 68, doing 60 miles an hour, and just cruising, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 and just coasting. Like, Gabe was in the back on the couch there, and apparently he just felt like the differential just slamming against the floor.
Maybe we should rewind. And I remember you driving it. Was it this summer or the summer prior? And you had asked about pinion bearing noise.
Yeah.
And you took me for a ride, and I told you that it sounded like the pinion bearing was a little noisy.
That whole thing was that thing made a lot of weird
You
noises.
see, eventually the pinion bearing noise went away. It would only show up. It would only show up at 50 miles an hour, like between 50 and 55. So I just cruised at 45 or 65, and I had no problems.
Yeah.
Until it blew up.
Maybe explain to the listeners what vehicle is your tow vehicle.
This is a 1995 Ford E350 ambulance that I bought off of Craigslist for $2,000 off of some guy who had converted it to tow his son's Circle Dirt Track car. Seemed like it actually was a great deal.
In theory,
The fact that I
it
could
is a
different-
great tow vehicle. In theory.
In practice, not so much.
Yeah, I mean,
it could have been. If I had put $4,000 and just like, let me just do everything at once,
I
think it could have.
value of having a box.
It's an
with,
awesome tow vehicle.
Yeah.
It's just that one was a piece of shit. Just
If I could get a more modern one,
Yeah,
that'd be.
the electrics scared the shit out of me in that car.
Oh, they still did.
Just touching the front console and hearing sparks underneath the dash.
yeah, just a bunch of uninsulated wires. It was questionable, but yeah, I mean, it was a lot of potential.
It was getting to that point too. Like, Trent, like 6 brand new tires. Since you didn't.
Recalled tires, I believe.
Yes, but I was able to get them. I know. I bought tires for $200, knowing that they were recalled, and got to get $1,000 set of tires for free. Well, for $200. But
Eventually,
the engine was actually running strong after fixing a bunch of little things. That's what annoyed me the most. The transmission, besides a little rear diff noise, never gave me any problems. And then Actually, I really should say it's probably because I was going to put it up for sale, because I had actually gone. So I'd always had planned on this being the last event for the ambulance, so I could just sell it and get a nice, decent truck, because I was not going to drive 15 hours to Pennsylvania again in that thing. I'm sure, as you remember, 15 hours in that thing is...
It wasn't that bad. Getting woken up by the smell
Yeah, 15 hours by
burning
yourself
rubber.
because your
Yeah.
wife won't drive it.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It's awful. But so I like towed down to Salem, no problems at all. We went to Walmart. I bought a for sale sign. I was just going to put it up at service and just hang it up there, because at service is when everybody's like, oh man, it's so awesome. I want one of those. I was just going to put it up for like $3 or $4 grand. You know, after the rally, some guy can come and take it. I throw it in the back of the truck, and that's when we start driving to go to Shakedown, and no more than 10 miles later, it's like the ambulance is like, what, you're going to fire me? No, I quit.
Yeah, exactly.
And just, it's done for. So now it's sitting in Salem waiting to get scrapped or somebody to come buy it. So if any potential listeners out there are looking for a 1995 U350 ambulance with a Power Stroke dually,
Gently
gently
used.
used, well maintained.
Gently titled. So from the, I guess there's so many things that seem to come up the couple of days before a rally, no matter how much or how little you prepare. I've either crewed or co-driven for people that prepare it. Well, I can almost say this: the people I've co-driven for don't prep all that much, and I can say that in some situations, like with Bill Caswell, he picked me to co-drive not because I knew how to co-drive, but because I knew how to crew, and that seemed to pay off because I ended up crewing for him. Just happened to be sitting in the right seat in the car. There's just a ton of stuff that always pops up on a rally weekend, and I know most people just carry wads of cash just to solve problems. Trying to think of other things that have popped up. There's stuff that always is forgotten, and it's really nice to rally in a town with a Walmart.
Yeah,
I mean,
toe straps,
and spill kits, and when we did Perryville for the first time, that was like, oh man, go get some kitty litter from the Walmart or whatever. Or go have somebody pick up kitty litter. Trying to think, John, was there anything from the organizer side that was super last minute? I don't really think so. I mean, other than I'm trying to think of the all the things prep wise that happened, that weekend. That I think pretty much everything was.
Yeah, prep wise, I mean, at least any organizer I know, they have everything done ahead of time. Mm-hmm. There's nothing last minute that you would think of doing. So usually anything that pops up is just something that is very unique to that situation that only happens because you get snow or you get ice or conditions that you weren't planning on. And we had plenty of that. Yeah.
Well, John and I are on the committee, and the committee is made up of a dozen or more. I'm trying to think how many are on the committee.
No, probably like 16 to 18, I would say, total.
Yeah. And we start working on the rally in September.
Yeah, I was planning the route in September.
Yeah, some of the core people in September, and then it really starts to pick up in October. So, and since the committee has remained almost unchanged for 7-8 years now,
it was smaller, and then we've slowly added more people.
We have a certain
flow.
No, just a large knowledge base.
Yeah, that's true.
And a number of years of knowledge to go on. So we've sort of figured out all the issues.
Yeah.
You had wanting to do on your Zero car, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, really Friday there weren't too many issues organizationally, for the rally other than zero. Saturday is when the shit hit the fan.
Yeah. I don't know. Mark, what do you have to say before these guys railroaded you into saying it?
Well, normally John and I campaign a 1970 Volkswagen Beetle, and we decided to go ahead. It takes an enormous amount of time and maintenance to go ahead and run that vehicle. We decided back in, I don't know, I guess in midsummer to go ahead and look for a car to
after-
purchase.
Well, you
renting
rented Matt's car.
Matt's
I had
car,
rented
yeah.
Matt's. He had graciously loaned me his car to use at a Jibway, which took a shit, I think, maybe like 4th or 5th stage in. Kind of a shakedown event maybe for it as well.
Developing you.
Yeah. it's a
Development
development
year. Every year's a development
Exactly,
year.
yes. I think we DNF'd maybe both days.
You got half your money back.
But we did, yes. And it was a fun event, and the car is superb to drive. I mean, that car is very easy to drive. I could run the same pace as the Beetle and not feel like I'm going to kill myself like every other turn. So it's a very easy car to drive. And then there's so much more speed potential with your car, which
Well, I should say, okay, so just to interject.
yes.
The thing that is so much that sets Matt's car apart, and this is the thing with rally cars, again, for someone who hasn't built a rally car, looked into it much, it's worth saying that the engine is probably the least important part in the whole. This is why I'm getting that ABF engine for the Syncro, is because I don't want to care about the engine. And your engine, other than the Rob tune, is pretty much stock.
Yeah.
But the magic is in the suspension, and the magic is in the drivetrain, and you have really awesome differentials and really pretty nice suspension, and that made all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And the
definitely
steering
does.
quickener.
Yeah.
That really helps.
It
And
does.
I mean, I can speak to that because the Beetle's not
Yeah.
the best rally car, but I think it's properly sorted.
So I knew that was that really cemented it for me whenever you guys got your Legacy, which isn't bad. It's just
No, but it needs work. So shortly after running to Jibway, we started looking at Legacies and then found one that was in the Pacific Northwest. Went ahead and bought it and had it shipped down to us. It's pretty much I don't know, I guess it's mainly stock in terms of driveline. I mean, it's a
Other than
5-speed
suspension and motor.
Yeah, but like in terms of driveline, it's a 5-speed transmission, open differentials. It has good, DMS 50mm suspension. Was it a 20G motor?
EJ20G.
EJ20G. Yeah, so
which would have been a sort of an equivalent of what I'm going after is a motor that we did not get in the United States, but at the time it was a really hot motor and became the basis for most of the it was the WRX motor, correct?
Yeah.
yeah. It feels pretty strong. I mean, it pulls
It does,
pretty good.
yeah. For a
you've
stock,
driven it.
basically a stock turbo motor. It's really nice. And to think, what year did the EJ20G come out? Not to get too deep into Subaru technical knowledge, but
Early
90,
90s, yeah.
92, 93. So yeah, for something made in 1993, it feels pretty magical.
Yeah. But it needs some work. I'd want to go ahead and put differentials in it.
Yeah.
It understeers like mad.
You're just driving it too hard.
Right. So
I would describe our pace as borderline pathetic.
yes, it was painfully slow, and it should be painfully slow. We're supposed to run, according to the rules, we're supposed to run at bogey speed or
130%
of bogey speed. It's not supposed to be a competitive speed, but it's supposed to be enough so that we're not putting the rally behind time.
Wouldn't crashing into a tree put the
Well-
rally behind time?
It would, yes. So we ran the super special, and then the second stage, it was maybe 2 miles into the stage,
Yeah,
less than that.
Went ahead and got that out of the way.
2.12, I think.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
You have
No,
it-
I had it noted.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was 4. I thought it was like 4 miles or something.
Oh,
'cause they
really?
read
Maybe it
over
was,
the-
4.12.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the conditions were incredibly variable.
Awesome.
They were, yes. And I think I was just driving. Well, Ron, you co-drove. We were going, I would think, incredibly slow.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was doing anything crazy at all. And we just came over a slight crest. I think it was a little off camber. It had maybe tightened. I don't know. But it was right on top of the crest. It turned from kind of hard packed snow to
Sheet.
sheet
Yeah.
ice. And
It was definitely something that would have been in the notes.
yes,
or
it probably would have been in the
obviously
notes
if you're lucky.
or we would
Yeah.
have seen it in Recce.
But we had a worker route book, so
Yeah.
all I had was a turn arrow.
Yeah. And I was driving pretty much middle of the road, trying just to be conservative, I think.
Used the worst line.
I did. I should have picked the proper racing line. So
I honestly, I don't think it would have helped.
I don't know if
Not
it would
those
have.
differentials.
Yeah, I doubt it. And we just it was like a very slow
I think you tried
slide
about
off
3
the road.
things.
I did.
You went for throttle, and then you went for brake, and then you went
Yes.
for throttle, and then you went
and
for
then went for the
e-brake.
e-brake, which was terrible because it's the stock e-brake, and I think the cables have stretched so much
Yeah.
that you have to like pull it all the way vertical, and then it barely holds the car on a hill.
It was enough time that you're like, okay, I'm out of things.
Yes.
I've done all the things, and I'm out of things, and here we go.
And
Along for the ride.
it was a well, luckily the ditch was snow packed,
Yeah,
and then we were doing
20.
maybe 20 when we hit the ditch, and then maybe like 5 miles an hour when we hit this tiny little pine tree. It was a sapling.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it crushed the light bar, and we broke one light, and it kind of pushed the light bar in, and it popped out a corner marker light.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got out of the car and popped the hood open, and, we didn't have any leaks in the radiator, and everything seemed okay. So you radioed into net control saying we needed help. And then they sent a Jeep. And then the Jeep was going maybe 5 miles over the same crest, and he got turned around sideways, and we thought he was going to hit us when we were in the ditch.
So obviously, we did. Me being the mediocre co-driver that I am, thought, I want to make sure that we don't get behind here. So while we're out there cursing or doing whatever, I radioed and said, hey, we're 4.1 miles in, we need a heavy sweep or whatever, and somebody kind of chuckled and said okay, and I got the tow strap out, and I hooked the tow strap up, and I'm standing in the middle of the road with the tow strap, like a co-driver, so we're ready to go, and standing in the middle of the road, this guy comes over the crest, and I didn't for 1 second, it took a second to dawn on me, I should probably get the hell out of the way. And he's all crossed up, just totally crossed up, and stuffs it pretty much into the other ditch.
Yeah.
And has to back out. I was surprised that he did get enough at first he did not get enough traction to pull us out. He had to park he had to lock all the differentials, I guess, in the Jeep, and then he just kind of slid his way with the tow strap hooked up into the other ditch, and then he hooked up in the other ditch and pulled us out. So that was interesting. I think we were only behind by 8 minutes.
Yeah, it
wasn't
really
much,
wasn't that
yeah.
much. It was like 7 minutes, I think, is what we were behind.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything.
Yeah. And then after that, I was driving, I think, even slower.
Yeah, after that,
which I think maybe was worse. I don't know. Sometimes
it was. Yeah, it
sometimes
really
it's very
was
hard to drive slow. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a certain pace where I find it's just easy to drive at, not a competitive pace, but just a pace that seems just normal for me.
When you drive uncomfortably slow, you are more apt, I think, to understeer than you are to oversteer.
Yeah.
And normally driving a rear-wheel drive car, you're probably more apt to know what to do when a car oversteers than when it understeers, because that seems to be all that thing does.
True.
But yeah, it was, whenever John and I left the banquet on Saturday night, I came out of the, and you were, Matt, you were behind me. So I popped a left out onto the highway, and it was all snowy, and, I'm thinking
Understeered into other lanes.
Yeah, whenever I drove your car just around a snowy parking lot, I could do what I do in the E30, and just hammer it, and it gets on boost, and there she goes, and it just lit up the inside front wheel and just went and understeered into the other lane. I'm like, well, this is stupid. Like, what is the deal here? And so I tried getting into boost and then clutch kicking it to break the end out. I tried pendulum or something, and it just wanted to understeer every single situation. So diffs are magical, and
Yes.
I am now really, really glad that I spent the money for differentials for the Syncro, because I think I would have been disappointed if I had not, or I would have done some quick welding of the rear diff or something.
Are you guys still going to rally the Beetle?
Yeah, we're gonna campaign the Beetle just at events we've not done yet. We've pretty much filled up one logbook, which is 28
25?
events. I think
I was thinking it was a 32 or 34.
I don't think it's been that many. I thought it was around like 28, 29, maybe 30.
I was
But
gonna say, there's nothing better
it's-
than watching the in-car video of you guys.
Well-
and it's like the Sesame Street steering wheel when you guys are on it, like on a straight. It's just, this is the best thing ever.
yeah,
It's a fight.
it is.
seems.
It
The one-
really wants to kill you every other turn. I mean, it is so satisfying though driving it at that speed and be able to keep up with more modern cars with more horsepower,
Like
with
Brandon
four-wheel
Burke's
drive.
BMW.
Yeah.
Yes, it is incredibly satisfying. Placing as high as we do in that car, but it takes an incredible amount of time beforehand and work on the car that I just don't want to do anymore.
So I think so. When I started, I'm trying to keep this somewhat loosely coupled to Project Syncro. I guess when I started building the Golf, all I had driven on loose surface was a front wheel drive car, and your old all wheel drive cars here and there, and I enjoyed that. But I thought, those I was driving with the front wheel drive, left foot brakey, pendulum turny mentality, and it was more so driving clean and using the oversteer to set up for another turn or something. It wasn't really wildly oversteering at all. And about halfway through the build, I think slightly after when I decided to go all-wheel drive, I bought an E30, and that absolutely just 180 changed the way I drive. And now I would have to say that every single person needs to drive a rear-wheel drive car on a loose surface with a limited slip. And it's just, I don't know. It keeps you really honest. I still think, Matt, you need to drive rear-wheel drive more. Mm-hmm. It seems like I've seemed to have improved at damage control a lot. Because that's a thing in the Golf where it was just like, oh, you just leave your foot in it and the front end is just stupid and just pulls you out of any crappy situation. But damage control in a rear-wheel drive car is a way more serious affair.
I seem to remember you tagging the curb outside of
Yes.
AB.
Yes, that seriously bent a wheel up. Those, I think the only times I ever crashed the BMW were 2 times in the same day whenever you were in the car. But
I think you drove our Beetle once at a rallycross
And spun it.
like
Immediately.
Yes. So it wasn't the first time you had driven rear-wheel drive with your E30.
I think,
Because I think that was before you had started your Project Syncro, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the only other rear-wheel drive somewhat sporty vehicle I had driven before then was my aunt's Carrera, like years and years ago, to the point that I just had no idea what was going on, and obviously I wouldn't get in any sketchy situations in that. But it was like, yeah, it really, I don't know. Whenever I picked up the BMW. And Mark, you and Sam Smith were in front of me. The very first turn I made in the BMW, right like 5 minutes after I bought it, was a left turn in the snow out in front of the road and track office, and I spun in a 4-lane divided road, and just did like it's like a 360, and then kept going straight. And it was like, I don't know, it was probably months. And I think I went through like 17 tires in a matter of a few months. Like, I really need to figure this out. Some of those are still, some of the tires over there are still from those.
Nicely corded.
I will call them formative months of driving a rear-wheel drive car. I don't know. It's like borderline upsetting that it took me this. I will say it's both a positive and a negative. Had I had a rear-wheel drive car earlier, I would be building a rear-wheel drive rally car. I think it's that fun because, Matt, you are like an awesome driver and really concerned on times and results and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I do not care at this point. I probably will when I have a car and I'm, running stages. But right now it's like the magicalness that happens when you're completely on lock in a rear-wheel drive car is like, I'm sure stage rally will be as magical, but it's still a lot of fun.
Yeah, when you're on the limit and pushing for seconds.
Yeah.
That's what gets fun for me.
Yeah.
I think you'll have fun with a short wheelbase all-wheel drive car will still be.
That is the thing I'm excited about. Is at the end of the day, I'm still building a Golf, and I still think if there's a car I know how to drive on a loose surface, it's probably a Golf, because I've done enough of it with the red car, and crashed it enough times that I sort of know what I'm doing, and hopefully it just drives like a front-wheel drive car with slightly more power and slightly more grip or something. I don't know.
Only one way to find out. Finish it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, as long as you don't do what you did in the 4000.
Oh,
Getting
understeer.
Jefferson to 44.
Yeah, understeer situation in the 4000. That was bad because that was fuel cut in the 4000. I set it up, Audi 4000 as an all-wheel drive, an early all-wheel drive car where the engine all 5 cylinders sit in front of the hubs for the front wheels, and it wants to understeer unless you absolutely pendulum it aggressively and just go wide open and upset the rear. And as I was trying to upset the rear, it fuel cut, and then it just understeered right into a curb and destroyed the 2 left wheels and bent the 2 left control arms. And I don't know. I was so broke at the time that I just used a torch and a hammer and straightened everything back out. I didn't even replace the ball joint.
Wow.
The ball joint popped out.
The wheels were broken. Like, I don't know. We don't know how they were holding air. They were like, the wheels were broken pretty badly.
Oh, yeah.
The car, I followed him back to the shop in the Ranger.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop laughing. I couldn't drive hardly because I was laughing so hard because this car was crabbing so bad. He was driving in the middle lane. The front left tire was over the line into that lane, and his rear right tire was over the line in the other lane.
Well, and it would swap.
Yeah, and
it was raining.
And it would just randomly buck him around.
It was raining, and then you would feel like I would kind of just jar the steering wheel a little bit, and I don't know if one of the wheels would unload enough that the diff would shoot around, and it would all of a sudden it would just get crossed up the other way, and and you're like, oh man, it was such a severe angle that I was looking at the A pillar. It was really bad.
That was funny. It sucked. When I saw you going side, I was like, "Ooh, that's bad." And he just hit that curb perfectly sideways.
Bad things only happen to me when you two are around.
Yeah. But I haven't been around. No, that was the only thing.
And the getting stuck in the Golf, coming back from a rallycross.
Oh,
that was a crappy
on the
thing.
highway.
Oh yeah, the clutch. The clutch blinds.
I've blown up so many stupid clutches. There are a lot of people just running. Surprisingly, there's still a lot of people running Mark IIs, just Group 2 rally cars, and they all still run the 020 rod shift transmissions, and they're just really
just do it and get over.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I don't want to hit myself in the face.
So when the 020 transmission, was designed for the Rabbit in the 70s, or for the Audi? What were those?
For the Rabbit.
Yeah, I guess it was for the Rabbit.
The Rabbit and the Scirocco is the only 2 cars they have. Well, and no, that's the only cars they have.
It was barely ever meant for over 100 horsepower.
Well, and then the Jettas as well. But.
Yeah, and they just explode. I mean, when you blow. Think of how pathetic that is that you just ruin 5th gear. What do you have to do to ruin 5th gear on a transmission? Nobody on a Subaru ever ruins 5th gear. It's because it sits out on the end of out on the end of the shaft, out on the end of the case, or stuff the rivets in the differential explode and the whole differential just falls apart, or the shaft for the spider gears in the differential just falls out. It's what do you mean the pieces just fall out? It's this is a factory built transmission. Stuff doesn't just fall out. So I've had that happen to me, and every single the biggest piece of advice I have for people that rally Mark II is like, if you want a reliable car, you know, get an engine that runs, but then swap to the O2A transmission that is built more reliably and for more horsepower. I mean, even the Corbett's, how much power did the Corbett's run in their drag car in basically a stock O2A? It was like 600 horsepower?
No, they're right at 500.
500, well, still 500 horsepower.
500 wheel horsepower.
Yeah. They cracked the case and the car still drove. And it had a huge crack right down the middle of the transmission case.
And that only happened because they welded the diff on
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I don't know.
I think that's the one that they welded the diff on, and it exploded.
Yeah.
Didn't that happen to them? Or did the differential just break apart?
Something like that. I don't know what he does. He welded the differential or something like that, and it broke. That was, what year 100 Acre was that?
Took too tight of a turn.
Yeah.
09 or 10, maybe?
That was, I think it was 2010, maybe. Because that was the year I think I was going to Mexico, because I didn't even plan to go to 100 Acre. And I was kind of asking her, I think I asked you, Matt, if anybody was having any problems. And you're like, oh, I think Brian's outside trying to pull a transmission out.
Yeah, I remember that.
And in the time took me to drive down there, he still hadn't had anything figured out. And I ended up pulling the transmission out for her.
Wait, you had gone to Mexico in 2011, and 2012?
Oh, maybe it was
It's probably 2011.
2011
Yeah,
then.
okay.
Co-driver
Yeah.
for Haas.
Yeah, only twice.
Okay.
I don't know, what else happened at how are we on time, by the way? I don't want to blather on a bit. 45 minutes. Oh, okay. Well, we don't have to talk about much else. What else? I guess I should give somewhat of a status on the car, since this is sort of about the car.
We're crushing it.
Yeah, right. I will say it was nice to have a bit of a break from it. Kendall's out of town right now, so the transmission is sort of on hold because I'm too nervous to put it together without Kendall around, but it's also on hold because the spare gears that I thought I had missing that I needed to get replaced, I had replaced, and they were the wrong gears because we didn't do a dry assembly of the transmission to really figure out what we had and what was missing until after the replacement parts had arrived, and we realized we ordered the wrong things.
And I will say, watching back in the video, remember when that part on the angle drive was flipped around, and you had to take it off, and then you had to take those like shim things off?
I forgot to put a gasket
I
in.
forgot to put the gasket back on. I didn't notice it when we were there. It was just
Neither
sitting on
did
the
I.
box. And then in the video, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. So
Gotta take that back apart.
yeah.
Well, either way, I think you're going.
I think I was planning on taking it apart anyway. So the story with the transmission is that the company Eurospec that makes this gear set no longer really makes it, and even when they did, they outsourced all this stuff, and no one there knows anything about it anymore. I call up and no, I call up the sales guy. I don't really expect the sales guy to know other than, hey, I need this gear for this transmission, and he just types it in and finds it. But the second time calling for spares, I said, I really would like to talk to one of your transmission guys, because they build stuff in-house. They assemble, rather. They assemble stuff in-house. So I said, I just need some information from your transmission guy about tooth counts and to make sure that I'm ordering the right stuff, because I have a gear that I think is the main shaft third gear, and I want to verify that my tooth count is correct. That was 4 weeks ago. Like, what are you doing? And he said, oh, sorry, he's out and his wife just had a baby, and now he's back, and now I need to talk to him. And then he sends me a message the other day, well, the transmission guy wants to know what your tooth counts are on first gear. Like, why do you need to know first gear? It's like, you only had one first gear. It's a 2.7, so did a little bit of math, and the main shaft has 10 teeth, and the counter shaft has 27. Yeah, so I told him that, and he just hasn't responded. Like, what else can you possibly ask me? So at this point, I'm like, just send me whatever, and, send me more stuff and I'll just send you back whatever I don't use or something. But it got to the point where all of the errors that have stacked up have forced me to learn how a manual transmission works more than I would have expected to with Kendall helping me out. So, I mean, that's kind of a positive. We did the episode on the angle drive rebuild. We haven't done an episode on the rear end or the viscous coupler. If you guys didn't notice the scenery change, this is my home garage. My roommate Lee actually owns a house, and we've been doing a lot of work to get the lighting upgraded and the floor painted and everything, sorted out and make it a nice workspace. And hopefully we'll be bringing the rally car here in the next week or two, or somewhere around there. And I would like to do the viscous coupler rebuild here because, again, looking around, it's a little bit cleaner here than it is at Kendall's. Nothing bad on Kendall, but that shop is never going to be squeaky clean, really. And I wanted to start to transfer work over here as things become less about heavy fabrication and more about wiring and plumbing.
General assembly.
Yeah, general assembly. Stuff that, Mark and John, you guys have a lot of experience with. And over the past week, and I'm looking forward to doing an episode on this, so you have to look forward to an episode on pin stands. Which are awesome, and I was sort of a 80% believer in pin stands, and now I'm a 100% believer. So for those of you who've seen rally cars with these triangular inserts on them, you put tubes and plates in the sills, and you drill a hole all the way through the sill, and you mount these pin receivers, just thick tube, on the four corners, and then you can make these triangular pin stands to hold the car up on. So all you do is you get a really nice jack, you max it out, and then you measure, how much room you have under it and put the stands on. So John, you did an awesome job helping me out and doing some trig work, and I appreciate that greatly. And I was really excited when I welded up all of those stands, and they were all dead on center of pin, 20 inches off the floor, and they're all absolutely perfect. And I can't wait to do an episode on that. And
started. It's edited pretty much.
Yeah.
The beginning part of it, but not showing them completed. It was the trial run, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Well, you want to make sure you do one that works
Yeah,
before
absolutely.
you make the other three.
That's true with
You
anything.
need to make sure that every drill bit in the drawer doesn't drill that well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to think of other upcoming things. All the differentials, we'll probably, I don't know that I'll bolt that much up before we bring it back here. So we'll probably have, Kyle, if you have time, we'll probably do a little episode on bringing the car back here. And then from there on out, I'm waiting on an engine to come in, which I put a deposit down on that, and the engine should be here middle of April, which is good. Here, actually, in this garage.
Have they actually sourced the engine, and where is it coming from? Germany, or
It's coming from England.
Oh, from England.
Yeah. Out of a Mark III GTI, a 2-liter 16-valve.
Lovingly driven by a grandmother.
I hope. I had to... probably not. Yeah, probably not. I asked for compression numbers, because ideally I don't want to rebuild. I don't want to do a complete rebuild. Really, I just want to do head gasket, head studs, timing belt, and, throw the thing in the car, and I don't want to care about the engine right now. I want to get it running, and I've cared too much about everything to begin with. I would rather just...
The only plus side of it being from England is cars are extremely expensive to insure. And
Yeah.
so kids who have cars, that's why like all the VRs over there, especially like the 2.9s and 2.8s.
Mhm.
Well, 2.8s are not, but like the 2.9s, people couldn't afford insurance on them because they were outrageous. So people who had them didn't beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
It's the same with like all the Mark IIIs. All the Mark IIIs over there, they got the shit beat out of them. Were all like I think 1.4 liters.
Yeah.
Because they were cheap, you could insure them for nothing.
Yeah.
But like when you got into the 16 valve, like people couldn't afford them.
Mhm.
You know, when you get to 2 liters because of the insurance. So hopefully, cross your fingers.
Yeah, not going plastic. So I think that's all we had, unless anybody had anything else. Appreciate you guys listening. As always, hopefully this was somewhat mildly entertaining, a little bit of a view into hopefully the stuff I'll be experiencing once I actually finish my car and start running events, that there are all kinds of unforeseen things that pop up because of weather or tow vehicles or whatnot. And you just have to be prepared for everything. I'm putting a lot of work into preparing the car, but there's a lot of preparation that goes into every aspect of rally, which is why it's so challenging. And I think it's why we all do it. So thanks guys for listening. As always, keep an eye out on Facebook for the photos that I post on the Project Syncro page, all the awesome videos that Kyle puts together. Let us know if you guys want us to talk about anything, or you have any questions for us for future podcasts, or people you'd like Kyle or us to talk to. We look forward to all of those. So continue to comment, like, and share, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.